It is like the perfect storm. It helps traffickers and groomers and pedophiles and rapists and people who want to abuse children and take advantage of children. It helps remove them from their homes and then erase any trace of that child so that you cannot find your child and protect your child. That is the reality of California. That is why California is one of the worst states. That coupled with the fact that it's a sanctuary state. No child in this country is safe with the laws that are currently in place in California and that they want to implement right now in California this legislative session. For every bad actor to take children and do whatever they want with zero legal recourse. There is zero protection, and it's not for children of undocumented immigrants. It's for every child who lives in the state and who's brought to the state.
This is a f***ing nightmare. Nicole Pearson is a California attorney, passionate constitutional advocate, and founder of the civil rights law firm Facts, Law, Truth, Justice. She is known nationally for her tireless legal work defending individual freedoms, informed consent, and parental rights, especially during the COVID-19 era. With a background in law and a bold commitment to truth, Nicole has taken on high-profile cases that challenge government overreach and uphold the foundational principles of liberty. She is a sought-after speaker, podcast guest, and thought leader for those who care about medical freedom, justice, and protecting children. Her fearless voice has inspired thousands to stand up for what is right. Nicole is a woman of God. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Everything's right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Even better than the reality.
There is no way. Every time I talk to someone here in California about the justice system and all that stuff who's fighting for the freedoms, they mention a few names, and your name is always among those.
Good.
Top three. Top three for sure. I want to jump right into it. Let's start with the pesticide bill. I think it's one of the most important bills this year, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Tell me about the pesticide bill and tell me what regular people, regular citizens of the U.S. have no idea what it is all about. And why should they care?
So Section 453 is a rider. It's an amendment that they shoved into an appropriations bill. This is at the federal level. And it's a rider. And what they typically use, I mean, we've all seen now that we are more awake and more involved in politics and how they're passing laws. We see what happens. And so what they do is they work all the angles and take advantage of, exploit rules to try and pass things that otherwise wouldn't get passed if it was a standalone bill, for example.
Like with the omnibus?
Exactly. So it's a rider, and what they're doing is it's 9 lines. It's super short. And what they are saying is that no federal funds can be used by the EPA to update any labels or approve any labels that would be inconsistent with a pesticide chemical's current carcinogenic classification or health assessment. So
translated to a normal
translation.
language?
So I always want to start with what the bill says because I think that's a good place to start. So that's basically the EPA cannot use any money, so they can't do anything. You're basically defunding the EPA from updating or changing labels. If any information comes out now that shows that those labels are if the change would be inconsistent with the way that the label is currently written, meaning the EPA can't change labels. If new information comes that says, for example, okay, well, the carcinogenic classification should actually be higher or perhaps even lower, the EPA is like, well, sorry, this rider passed, and so I can't use any funds to change that label, to change the classification or health assessment. I mean, just in very simple terms, the EPA cannot change any labels to make them, they just can't change or approve or update any labels if they would be inconsistent with the labels that are currently in existence right now. So as new information comes out, new data comes out, they cannot change it unless they do a new health assessment, which per the EPA, you go to the EPA's website, takes a minimum of 4 years and up to 12 years. So for at least 4 years and up to 12 years, we will be looking at chemicals with old, outdated labels until the new health assessment is over.
What's the name of the bill?
It's a rider. It's Section 453 in the House Appropriations Bill.
So it didn't pass. Was it on the floor in the House already?
No, it was in the Appropriations Committee, and what happened was, it's really interesting, but I'm a big nerd for this stuff, so if you want to know the details, the nitty-gritty is that the bill, there was the The representative from Maine, I forgot her name, Connie or Corey or something, from Maine. She's an older lady with blonde, short hair. I say this so that when people go watch the testimony, like I know they'll do after we speak today, what she proposed was an amendment to strike out Section 453, among other things. She had various amendments. So this huge appropriations bill came in. There are riders in this bill that have nothing to do with funding, or they do in a very tangential way. And so she had proposed an amendment to strike out the rider from the appropriations bill. And ironically or not, most of the Democrats that spoke up, or all of the Democrats that spoke up, were in support of her amendment to take out Section 453 because they're about the environment. They're about protecting farmers. They want to protect the land, the little guy who's getting poisoned by these pesticides in the waters. So all of the Democrats spoke up. They supported her amendment. They wanted to strike Section 453. And then we had all of the Republicans speaking out against her amendment and saying, no, we want to keep this rider in. So
because Republicans are for big business?
Exactly. They're always for their chemical donors. So absolutely. So it's very interesting though, because, we have Maha happening and people are thinking, well, we have the Republican president and he obviously joined forces with Bobby, with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Bobby Kennedy Jr. And so it's very confusing, but we're talking about the old guard and the new guard. Mm-hmm. So we have the old, deeply entrenched, older Republicans who have to kowtow to their donors. And they're not about the little guy. They're about big business.
Lindsey Graham?
Say it again?
Like who? Like Lindsey Graham? Who's the old guard?
Course. Yes. Every Republican that's that's been in Congress and who's been there for years, the old guard.
And there are dozens of them?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I can pull up right now how many there are. I have it. I did an Instagram post on that, but.
So the only problem to solve this is term limits?
Oh, absolutely. That's a whole other podcast, absolutely, how to reform the government. But I would absolutely agree, because if you are up for re-election every set number of years, then you're going to be doing what's in the best interest of your constituents instead of what's in the best interest. I mean, you don't really have any obligation to anybody if you don't, if you can just be in there in perpetuity.
So what's next with this pesticide bill? What's coming next and when?
We don't know. They snuck this rider in, and I can pull it up for you right now and let you know. Well, the first thing is this bill is a little bit hard, not hard, but they're sneaky, obviously, up in the federal government. Let me just, let me pull this up. Next steps, if you go to Facts, Law, Truth, Justice, my substack.substack.com, I have a what to do now. So right now it's in the House. And there are actually two other really bad sections, but we need you to call your representatives, and you can find your representatives. You just Google who's my House of Representatives representative. You put your address in and they pull up the information. I also just put a list to all the Republican members, because those are the ones that are voting to protect this rider, to keep in these protections.
And all of the Republicans are against this? So
this was the nitty gritty details that I was going to share with you, is that they did what's called an audible, like in an audible vote, like in a football game. Mm-hmm. So the chair Tom Cole didn't even have them. Usually the secretary will register the votes. Everyone votes, and then she logs them and counts them. So they did an audible vote, and he goes, everyone who was in favor of the amendment that would have struck the rider out of the appropriations bill, say yay, yay. Everybody's in favor, and against it, say nay, nay. He's like, oh, sounds like the nays have it. So that's literally how this went. So when I tell you I don't know what's going to happen, we don't know when this is going to be pulled, but this brought up again. But certainly we want you calling your representative saying we're paying attention, we know what's going on, and if this bill comes to the floor, we need you to vote no on the bill.
Does it matter? Do they care? Whether they get the calls or not? I
do. I think so. We saw that, that big bill that was the federal, I'm totally spacing on the name of the representative now, the legislator now, but the one about the federal lands that they were going to sell. They were going to privatize the federal lands and sell them off essentially to BlackRock. There was enough uproar about that we were able to stop that bill. He said he was going to pull it because he heard the voices of his constituents, and he realized that there was a lot more to consider before he was able to pass that bill. So, or present it to his colleagues for a vote. So if you get loud enough, I mean, if this is the thing, Apollo, no one has been paying attention for decades They have literally been doing whatever they want. They go to their
Yeah.
lunch meetings, they present things, they do backdoor deals, and no one's paying attention. I say it all the time, and I've said it a lot the last couple of podcasts I've done, is that COVID was a blessing and a curse because we were online. Those of us who were paying attention, learned how to access our representatives via Zoom meetings, how to access the meetings themselves remotely, submit comments remotely, use the online commenting process. Like there's so much, and then we shared information remotely, and we were able to expand our networks and share information on such a larger scale than before. And so it was a really challenging time, but it was also a very like informative and transformative and empowering time, in my opinion. Like look at what we're doing today, and so I think that it does make a difference. And for a very, very long time, they did things and no one even knew what was going on. And now we know. And now we talk about it on the internet. And now we post it on Instagram and Twitter and we tag them. And all their constituents are like, Representative blank, what's going on here? And making phone calls. And it's at the end of the day, for as big as the government is, these people are human beings. And we have to remember that they're human beings and they just want to keep their jobs. So I think it matters. It absolutely does.
But this thing with pesticide is it benefits only the big companies.
Right.
It can benefit a single person, right?
Right. And so what it does is, and people are saying that it grants immunity, and I do think that, we'll talk about another bill, Assembly Bill 495, which is a California bill, and this other bill, SB whatever 86 that just, or 466 or whatever that just passed. I think it is important, and the reason why I do the work that I do and I write the Substacks that take like 3 or 4 hours to write is because when you do go advocate for yourselves and your children, you want to know really what's going on. And when we say it creates immunity, we kind of sound like dodos, and it's really easy to debunk what we're saying, right? Because we don't actually know what the bill says or what it will do. So the pesticide bill does not grant blanket immunity, for example, like the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986. That literally says immunity for vaccine manufacturers, developers, researchers, administrators, et cetera. This bill says the EPA, basically, like we just went over, can't change the labels. And so what happens is it creates a defense for pesticide companies when they get sued in state court under state mislabeling and branding laws and pesticide laws. We'll just call them that. So I have a client. She's been injured because the label was inaccurate. There's a failure to warn lawsuit. We say Bayer's label did not warn about this side effect, and my client used it for 20 years, and then she had a baby, and the baby has deformed and has whatever it is. I don't have a case like this, but for example.
Oh, okay.
So I go to court, and then what Bayer does, the first thing they do is a motion to dismiss, or they do some sort of a motion to dismiss my case because they say, well, I couldn't, the attorneys say, my client could not update the label because federal law, which trumps state law, we tried. They can even lie. They said Bayer wanted to update the label. Bayer wanted to tell you and your clients and everybody about the birth defects, but the federal law prevented them from doing so. So what it's called is an impossible preemption doctrine. So it creates a defense for these chemical companies when they get sued. They can pretend like they were good guys and they wanted to get change the label, but they couldn't because the federal government held back funds and tied the EPA's hands from doing what these wonderful chemical companies wanted to do, which was disclose all of the horrible side effects of their drugs and chemicals.
So in regards to that 1986 children vaccine, do you think it's going to ever be overturned?
I hope so. I mean, that's literally between that and setting aside the California Health and Safety Code sections with the mandatory vaccination requirements for school children, that would be my dream. My dream would be to set aside the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986.
How possible that's happening in this decade? 1%?
Well, if I have anything to say about it, percentage of success?
Yes.
Percentage that I'm going to try? 100%. Percentage that I'm going to win? I will have to see. I mean, the tide is changing. The tide is turning so much. I mean, look at everything that's happening. We already have Rep. Thomas Massie, who wants to set aside the PrEP Act.
What is that?
The PrEP Act is why am I blanking on the acronym? I'll pull it up in a second. But the PrEP Act is that whenever there is an emergency, a state of emergency, a declaration of emergency like COVID or a tsunami or a mass, a fire, the federal government can issue a declaration of a state of emergency. And when the state of emergency is in effect, we'll break it down if you want with COVID, they issue a declaration of emergency. And then what happens is that all of a sudden there's this blanket liability for anybody who basically uses countermeasures, anything to counteract the effects of the emergency. So what happened in COVID, for example, the federal government issued a declaration of emergency, state of emergency, because of this novel virus that was killing everybody. So what happens is that the idea is that when there's an unprecedented, unanticipated emergency and we don't know how to deal with it, for example, a novel virus, we don't have the time to do the 5, 7, 10, 12 years of clinical trials to see if penicillin, for example, is appropriate to use to combat the virus. So what they do is they shield researchers, developers, manufacturers, distributors, administrators, like a doctor, a nurse, someone in a pharmacy, when they shield them from liability if they use this countermeasure during the state of emergency. We want people to be trying as quickly as possible, as many drugs as possible, and as many countermeasures as possible to figure out how to counteract this novel situation. So, what happens? What happens is what happened during COVID. They just keep extending and extending and extending this declaration of emergency and allow this unprecedented amount of harms to happen to everybody, and this development, an expedited schedule for developing drugs or vaccines or masks or tests with no safeguards. So there's no everything is expedited. Everything is without supervision or without any approval process. Why? Because we're in an emergency. So if you allow the government to circumvent its own rules, including the Constitution, because there's this declaration of emergency, then the government's just going to continue to declare and extend emergencies so they don't have to comply with their own rules that they pass themselves. And that's what happened. And that's what the PrEP Act does.
So PrEP Act is already passed, right?
Yes. It passed in 2005 after the 9/11 attacks.
And Thomas Massie wants to overturn it.
It's the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act, PrEP Act, and Thomas Massie wants to
Is he the enemy number one right now in the government? To the old guard?
Not to me, yeah. To the old guard, absolutely.
Trump hates him?
Yep.
Republicans hate him? Mm-hmm. Everybody hates him?
Yep, sounds
Democrats?
like it. I'm not sure. Obviously I can't speak for everybody, but I do know that he is not a bot. He is an independent representative.
Let's get back to the bills.
Yeah.
AB4.
AB4, again, another example of where, these legislators have been doing this for a very long time, and they're not going to say, especially Almer Atsuchi, he's the author of the bill. Really, the California Teachers Association is the author of the bill, but he's the little puppet in the front that's, proposing the bill. And he's running against Sonia Shah, like you just mentioned, our good dear friend Sonia Shah, who's running for superintendent.
God bless you.
God bless her, of public education in 2026. So a candidate for the superintendent in public instruction is not going to say, I'm going to shut down charter schools, which essentially will shut down homeschools and will essentially shut down all the vendors who support charter and homeschools. He's not going to say that, right? Technically, he's a legislator. He should be upholding the Constitution and following the law, and also supporting his constituents and parents and their constitutional right to choose what kind of education their children receives. So what they are doing is they're essentially, and the bill is extremely long. It's the way I printed it, it was 65 pages. It's one of the longest bills I've ever read. But if you print it in another format, it's actually 211 pages. So it's extremely long. And what they are doing is they are forcing charter schools that operate around 45% of the same funding as public schools, traditional public schools. They're forcing them to meet the same criteria and more criteria than public schools, traditional public schools, which we all pay for and own the buildings that they're in and don't have leases and have an entire system built into the government that supports that system. So charter schools, anyway, so that's AB 84. So they're basically creating offices, new positions in the California government, and to regulate and monitor and track and control charter schools.
What's bad about that control? What's bad about that extra accountability?
So we already have accountability. Charter schools in California already have accountability. They keep pointing to this one really terrible example of fraud that happened in around 2019. It's an A3 charter school system. They completely took advantage of the system, like tens of millions of dollars. This horrible group took advantage and embezzled.
Are they in jail?
I don't know if they're currently in jail at this moment, but what happened? We found out about it. Actually, do you know who was reporting it? Were the charter schools who were saying, these people are doing, something's going on with this charter school that just exploded all up and down the state. Allegedly, thousands of students enrolled and are expanding really fast. I mean, if you...
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Who rang the alarm? Who sounded the alarm? The charter schools. Why? Because we barely get any money. We don't want fraud. We want to work cooperatively with the government. We appreciate the unique position that we're in, and we already don't get enough funding as it is. We don't want. That's why it makes me laugh. Why would a charter school, we have zero incentive. Again, look at the people who have something to lose. We're going out of our way to oppose this bill because this bill is going to make it impossible for us to continue to operate. And we already have systems in place that already uncovered the fraud, the couple, there's like 2 or 3 big cases of fraud, prosecuted them to the full extent of the law, returned all of the money. And the only thing about the jail time is there were criminal charges, and I actually think they were on house arrest, and I don't know if they actually went to jail. I'm not sure, so I just don't want to, I'll get debunked and trolled, and this whole thing will get throttled if I misspeak. So I don't want to misspeak, but there were charges, and they were supposed to go to jail. I'm not sure if they actually went to jail. But the point is, we reported it, and they found it out, and they have the systems in place and the laws in place to make sure that charter schools are accountable and that there's transparency and accountability and that there's recourse if there is any fraud.
Give me an example how charter schools are not going to operate if this bill is going to be passed.
One example is so charter schools are public schools. It's an independent learning public school. So it's not traditional public school where you have the brick and mortar and children go from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and they sit in their desks and they have a set schedule. A charter school is essentially a public school, and they just provide a different learning experience depending on what the parents of the charter school want. And so there's thousands, there's over 10,000. I'm not sure. I don't want to.
Every charter school has a small board, and they vote for what they want their children to learn.
And a charter school has a charter, and the parents come up with a charter, and the charter school is directly accountable to the parents. It's like it's just a contract. We come up with a contract. These are the terms of the contract, and we're accountable.
It's a business.
It's a business.
Okay.
And
everybody's happy.
Supposed to be. It's a business. Exactly. If you don't like it, you go to another charter school.
Correct.
You go back to public school. And if we're doing great, we continue to grow. And it's a collaborative experience for, and parents get to choose the type of educational experience that is appropriate for their child, whether because that child has unique learning needs or physical needs and is medically complex, whether it's a foster care child, a military child that can't be in school year-round 9 months from 8 to 3 because their parent is going to get deployed. Charter schools provide the curriculum that can follow that child to Afghanistan or to Germany or wherever that child goes and still be on track.
Or another state.
Or you can also have, there are children, and that's the thing is that the people that are fighting these bills, they aren't thinking about the people who need the charter schools the most, who are going to be impacted if charter schools close. And I didn't answer your question, but I'll explain. I will get to your question. Is we're talking about teen moms who are pregnant but want to graduate, but they can't. Now they have to work or they have to stay home. They can't bring their baby and they can't afford to have childcare. So she wants to do her lessons at home from her computer while her baby sleeps, but she can't go to school. So it's also incarcerated. Children, juveniles who are incarcerated, they can also, if they're in and out of the system, a charter school offers that, or children who have to work. 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds who haven't graduated yet but need to work because of their family situation. I mean, if you look at the type of people who are opposing AB84, it's not what these.
It's not inclusive at all.
Exactly. And it's not who they're saying it's just not who they're portraying this, to be the opponents of this bill. And so in terms of how, going back to what I was just saying about how AB 84 will make it so that charter schools and then homeschools, and I always refer to homeschools because it's it's an ecosystem. My friend Tara Thornton and Denise Aguilar of the Freedom Angels, they've been in this space for a very long time, and Tara always describes it as an ecosystem that, because charter schools and then the homeschools use vendors. So while you may do math, reading, writing, and arithmetic and history or whatever at home, you will go to a music teacher or you will go to an equestrian center to get your child therapies, or a speech therapist, or whatever. Say it again. PE, whatever it is. So there are vendors that all of us use, because some of us don't know how to play the violin, but our daughter wants to.
Or teach chemistry, physics.
Exactly. So we have vendors. So AB 84, that's a perfect example. AB 84 only will only allow vendors who have teaching credentials. So right now, my daughter can go learn physics, astrophysics, from a retired NASA, astronaut who knows about astrophysics and knows about, whatever. Oh, he's 87 years old and he does not have his teaching credential. He doesn't care to do that. And I guarantee you, knows more than the teacher with the teaching credential trying to teach. I mean, if they even teach astrophysics in third grade. But they want him, they're not going to do that. So they're going to drive out vendors that way, limit our options.
But they're fighting what those vendors are actually teaching. Maybe someone is teaching anti-government stuff.
Well, that can happen in school, and that is happening in school. We have communist, socialist, radical teachers teaching communist, fascist ideas in schools right now.
BLM, white supremacy, privilege.
Okay, we have pedophiles who are raping our children in schools right now, okay? And they actually do background checks. And by the way, my charter that I go through, they have one of the most extreme background checking, vetting systems. So we're talking about a couple of things. What does credentialing really mean? Clearly, even if you and I don't know, again, let's just go to entry level, what we see with our eyeballs. I don't know what the credentialing process is in the state of California. What I do know is that teachers who are credentialed, and I know they're credentialed because they're teaching in a public school, and I can see their TikToks are teaching revolutionary, Marxist, communist ideas. We know that because we've seen that. I also know that they are sexually abusing our children, because it's all over the news all the time. So what does really, even though I don't know what it means, I know that it doesn't guarantee any of the things that you're talking about. What they're trying to do is add an additional hurdle for charter schools to function that puts them back under the supervision and the control of the public school system. Oh, well, maybe I'm not going to give this NASA scientist his credential, even though he came in with his cane and he got his credentialing. Maybe I'm not going to do that. So now they're controlling you that way, whether you get to operate, whether you get to offer this curriculum or not, and just make it, again, they're just bureaucratic hurdles that don't really help the kids.
But once again, if you don't like the vendor, you change it.
Right.
You replace it with another one, right?
Yes, correct. That's one example. Let's not focus on the credentialing, because first of all, I don't think credentialing means anything. Clearly, credentialing is happening now in public schools and it's not working. And I don't think that a teaching credential is indicative of how effective or safe your instructor is going to be.
How did Jeffrey Epstein get his credential, being a 24-year-old and teaching in Dalton School in New York?
Exactly.
Does anyone has the answer? Please comment below.
Oh God,
24-year-old
you're going everywhere.
in
You're
Dalton.
going everywhere in this podcast.
But this is a credential to have, right?
I knew I should have given you a list and be like, this is the list, and I'm your lawyer, and this is the list that we're sticking to. But that's just one example. Another example is going back to the very beginning of my very long comment, is that some schools are so there's classroom based and non-classroom based, and a lot of the schools are not classroom based, or not a lot of the schools, but there are many schools that a majority of their day is not sitting in a desk, so in a classroom. So they are saying that if you don't, and actually there was an amendment, and I'm not sure, I don't remember right now, but they did reduce the time. But they were originally saying if you spend more than 75% of your classroom experience outside of the classroom, then they were cutting your funding. Actually, that's not true. I need to look at the percentages, but they were saying they were tying how much funding you got based on how much time you forced children to sit in their desks in the classroom, like the traditional public schools do, which is exactly the reason why I'm not doing traditional public school. That doesn't work for my kid. That doesn't work for my immunocompromised kid. That doesn't work for my hyper son or daughter who can't sit still. That doesn't work for about 98% of young children who need to be outside in the sunlight, in the fresh air, learning by engaging with one another and learning from real life experiences.
This could go, for instance, in Minnesota, when you have a winter, harsh, severe winter and fall and maybe spring, because Minnesota weather is like Lithuanian weather, it's very cold. But here in California, you can be outside 300 days a year, 300 sunny days a year.
And for a lot of people who don't, again, this is another thing. We know where our modern day educational system came from, okay? This is not about what's in the best interest of the children.
At all.
Rockefeller, the whole thing is
workers.
We want workers that are trained to repeat and that can be, that just follow orders. We're not training children to learn and be independent and take risks and be creative and problem solvers because we're outside and there is a storm that comes and we built a tent or we built a makeshift whatever, and then, whatever the case may be. That's a silly example, but you mentioned weather, so that's something how like out in real life, or we're out in a field and all of a sudden a bull comes, and how are we going to get? I don't know. I'm just thinking of examples. That's silly because my children go to a charter school, and we are down the street. We're certainly not in a field learning, learning the school lessons, the curriculum. But there are just examples of. But what they will do is they will go and they will do a cooking class. They will go make their lunches, cook their lunches together, right? They will go and they will build. Instead of going and buying, we're going to build this thing and then we're going to use it together and we're going to see how it works. And so it's not classroom based. It's outside, or it's in a lab. It's at a lab, or it's in a music center. And we're not going to learn how to we're not going to learn how to read music and memorize it. We're going to learn how to write a song, because I went and now I work with this composer who used to work for the LA Philharmonic, not credentialed, but she's going to teach you how to write music.
Sure.
So, and it's not in the classroom. But listen to the types of experiences that I'm explaining. I did traditional public school for many years. I went to university, I went to law school, I went and studied for the New York bar. I've done like all the things. I actually love learning. I'm a big nerd. I love to learn, but listen to the things that my kids are doing, how they're learning how to play and read and appreciate music versus you're going to sit here for a 45-minute class and you're going to, again. And I'm not saying the teacher is not strict. She's very strict and she does make them do things over and over again. But, that's the kind of experience that we now know because of COVID. Again, another silver lining of COVID. When we had to do this, that's what I'm saying. COVID was the worst, but it was also the best.
The best.
Because the government underestimated the human spirit. It underestimated our resolve and our human grit. And it underestimated, I think they missed the mark. And so if they had really done it all the way it should have been done, we would be done. We would be toast. But they didn't. And so now it's like a disaster. Now they really just got us, like I said, onto certain platforms. I have Instagram, I have an X account. I was never on Twitter in my life before. We have remote hearings and Zooms to learn how to go to a rally and advocate and legislate and lobby and how to, all these things. And they really just there's a phrase, an expression for what I'm describing, but they didn't do it all the way. And so now there's this offshoot that is way more potent than before. I don't know what I was trying to say.
Well, the one thing that opened my eyes with the traditional school system is, so I went to school 12 years. In Lithuania, it's 12 years. 5 days a week, 9 months a year, 6, 7, 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
For 12 years. I should be a genius. And I'm not.
It's actually the opposite.
12 years.
You know that, right? It's literally the opposite. That NASA did a study looking for geniuses. Do you know this?
No.
I think it was in the 60s or the 70s. NASA did a study and they went to preschools looking for geniuses. And they went to, I think it was even, it might have been like one school district. And I wanted me to pull it up. I think it was like 98% or 89% of the little children in the preschool tested as genius. And they were like, oh my God, we hit the jackpot. We hit the jackpot. We're going to follow them. And when they get old enough, well, we just really, we're going to recruit them into NASA. And they did the follow-ups and it went from, and it was over 1,000 of these kids. So it must have been a district or a state or something like that. And we can look it up very easily. I actually just read about this again the other day. And at the end, I think there was like 12. And the higher the further along they went in traditional education,
The number they got.
and it was because of creativity. And the criteria when they tested the geniuses originally, or when they tested the geniuses, was not like standardized testing scores. It was like, I think divergent thought. I really need to look it up. But the criteria that they used was, in layman's terms, creativity. How creative were these kids? How good at problem solving were these preschoolers?
Not the
when they
way
were
you spell the words, etc., right?
Exactly. So, and I mean, again, another study, kind of informal study, that just shows how, deleterious traditional public school system is. Traditional traditional schooling, because private schools are the same, right? It's not just about public schools.
How many amazing, talented people do you know that didn't have a degree, didn't graduate?
I mean, we see it all the time. Like, we see people.
I know a few.
I know people that didn't go to college who are like multimillionaires now because they went and they worked and they, figured it out and they lost it all and they figured it out again. But they are resilient. They are creative. They are problem solvers. They are personally responsible, accountable, and they're, resourceful, and they're kind, and they're extremely generous. Why? Because they know what it takes, and they're super compassionate people. They're gnarly business people, but they're if you show up and some of my clients, if you show up and you are working and you are trying, that's all it takes. But if you're going to just be lazy or scared, not scared, but shirk, it's okay to be scared, but shirk your responsibilities or blame other people, they're like, you're out. We're here, we're in it together, we're going to work on it. But I know a lot of people, and there are a lot of people even in the, on the internet and mainstream media, moguls, and there are a lot of them that didn't go to college.
Let's go with the religious freedoms. So you're a big advocate of freedoms itself, and the First Amendment, and the religious freedom as well.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have a religious freedom here? For instance, let's say my kid wants to go to school and I don't want him to get vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Can we get a religious exemption for him not to get vaccinated? Because let's say my religion says we're not going to do it because of the ingredients in the vaccine.
In California?
California.
No.
Okay. Other states?
Yes.
How many of them out of 50?
Out of 50 states, how many states? Okay, so I think it's still currently at this time, because I'm sure you saw, hold on, can we just look it up?
Yeah, sure.
It's actually New York, California, obviously Louisiana.
Oregon?
Well, there were, okay, so how many states, religious exemptions, vaccines, school? I would say don't allow. Do not allow. Let's see here. So California, Mississippi, interesting, West Virginia, and then all the other states offer some form of religious exemption. But there's religious and there's personal beliefs, right? Because religious is like specific when they expanded it. So people were doing religious exemptions because they're Jewish or they're Muslim or they're Catholic or Christian, whatever it is. And then, well, they're like, okay, we're going to expand not just no religious beliefs, no personal beliefs. Because there's some people who are not religious, but they have personal beliefs that, you know, just spiritual beliefs that they're not going to vaccinate, put poisons or toxins in their bodies.
Allegedly poison, YouTube. Allegedly poison. This is not poison. You take it.
No, artificial chemicals, okay, in their children's bodies. Heavy metals, aluminum. Adjuvants. You know, I would just like to say, we could just stop here very quickly. I would like everybody to know that the vaccine debate ends with this question. If anybody is listening, just record this right now. And you'll see that the data shows that most of the children and families, the most are the firstborn child, because then the parent gets scared or starts to learn about the vaccines and the diseases that they allegedly, you know, are responsive to. And also because of this, and I did not know this, your child will at around, early side is 4 months, but most children begin around 6 months to start playing with solid foods and eating solid foods. 6 months, okay? When your child, and you go to your pediatrician for his or her checkup at 6 months, and your doctor, pediatrician, starts to talk to you about solids, they're going to say, great, little Susie is ready to start playing with, you know, start trying to eat solids. And they're going to tell you that your child must eat one piece of fruit or a vegetable. Usually you start with soft, you know, veggies that you can blend, or like a banana, avocado, sweet potato. And you need to feed your child this avocado for 3 days in a row. And you're going to ask why. And they're going to tell you, because we need to make sure your child doesn't have an allergy to that food. Okay? I want to cry. 6, 12, 18. So that's 24 weeks old, 6 months old. And you want to tell me that my child that's 6 hours old has to receive an injection with heavy metals, aluminum, all sorts of toxins, and you know these vaccines are made in factories and they can be contaminated, cross-contaminated. And you want to tell me a baby with no immune system, no strength whatsoever, is going to be injected with 10, 20, 30, 60 chemicals, and that's okay? And when your doctor comes in and you give them that example, and you don't have to be gnarly about it, you don't have to yell, and it's just, and this is how I actually accidentally got my children out of a lot of vaccines. I didn't understand, but I just knew it didn't make sense. And this is the whole theme of this podcast. In my gut, I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. When you ask your doctor and they come in, they say, I need to give your daughter the hepatitis vaccine when she's 3 hours old or 6 hours old. And you're going to say, like I said, oh my God, do I have hepatitis? And they tell you no. I said, I thought we tested for, I thought I didn't have it. I didn't know oh, you don't have hepatitis. And I was there like completely, you know, you're exhausted and you're battle weary. And I was like, where is my daughter going to get hepatitis? Obviously, you have to look at your circumstances. I live in a nice area. I was in an extremely nice hospital in my first birth. And I'm like, and the only reason I knew about hepatitis was because of Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee, who had hepatitis C. And I knew that because I was not an advocate, activist, any of this in my old days. I used to read Us Weekly and People Magazine, but I knew that they had hepatitis. So I kind of had read at one time in law school during winter break, had read about hepatitis and knew a little bit. And I said, isn't hepatitis B from intravenous drug use and sex?
Correct.
And they said yes. And I was like, where is my daughter going to get it? And I was calm. I was exhausted. I was calm. I was like literally asking genuine questions. And they're like, probably not. And I was like, oh God, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. And they left because I was a normal,
just
rational, reasonable human being. And when that happened though, every hair in my body stood up. It was my first, now that I think in hindsight, because I didn't know what it was then, it was my first mama bear moment. I was like, what? My precious, pink, beautiful little baby, you want to stick needles in her? And they want to prick her. I was like, no, I just didn't want her to cry. And then everything that they said didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, I don't need any of this. I don't need any of this. And I just was like, I just don't want her to cry. I just want her to sleep with me. I don't want you to take her out of the room. And I just wanted to be a mom. I just wanted to have my baby. And I know that they try and railroad you, but that's been like the propaganda, that the white coats, and all, I understand that, but I just would not back down. I just was too scared. I was too scared. It just didn't feel right. And so I didn't let it do it. So all this to say, when they want to vaccinate your kid and you ask them, this is so interesting, and ask them, what's in the vaccine?
Yeah, name me all the ingredients.
Just start there.
Aluminum, what for?
Okay, you will research 30 hours car seats for your child, but someone comes in with an injection to put directly into your baby's bloodstream, and you're like, YOLO, like, let's have at it. And it's not one. First of all, the vaccines they're multiple, right? So you get MMR, is measles, mumps, and rubella. It's 3 vaccines in one. They don't want to tell you that. They don't tell you that. They're like, the MMR. You don't even know that you're getting 3 vaccines at once, in addition to the DTaP and the protect, whatever it is. You're getting 3 in one and then other ones. So you're not getting 10 ingredients, as if there were even 10 ingredients. You're getting like 110 ingredients into this little body that is already, most of the babies, I'm sure you saw the study, the umbilical cords of the moms, they did a test on the umbilical cords, like the toxicity levels of the woman's body where the baby is growing. So the baby is not growing completely clean and pure. They're already being born with a heavy metal toxic load, and then within hours or days or weeks are piling that up with multiple vaccines at the same time. And of course our children are having developmental delays and are autistic. It's not even, I'm not an expert on this, but it's not even autism. It's inflammation of the brain. Their bodies are freaking out. They have sensory issues and they're banging their heads against the wall and they can't stop crying, not because of colic, because they're in pain and their brain is inflamed and their whole bodies are inflamed and they can't tell you, and you keep giving them, pumping them full of chemicals. Like, that's the reality of vaccines.
But you don't have to be an expert to look at the statistics since 1980 something, right? One in 33?
Right.
No, what?
Now it's 1 in 33.
1 in 33. And
it used to be 1 in 100,000. And now it's 1 in 33. You literally, if I were having kids, that would be very alarming to me. That would be extremely alarming. I would be very worried.
1 in 33.
Mm-hmm. That's what, Donald Trump is like, we need to look at and figure this out. And I think his quote was like, that's not natural. Something's going on. That can't be natural.
So no religious freedoms, no religious exempts?
No, in California, no. And there are several lawsuits now. For example, Robert Tyler of Advocates for Faith and Freedom, they are doing a lawsuit. So Aaron Siri, which a lot of people have probably heard of, he's amazing. He's with Siri Glimstad. He's a partner with his wife at a firm based out of New York. He works with Del Bigtree of the Highwire, and then they have ICANN. It's Informed Consent Action Network. And he's incredible. His firm has set aside the laws banning the religious beliefs exemptions in other states. And so I think they're working, I think they just set one aside, and I think it was Wyoming, but there are attorneys who are now kind of mirroring that argument here in California. So there are firms that are trying to set the the bill that enacted the law that prohibited religious and personal beliefs exemptions in California.
What about free speech, First Amendment? Can I say whatever I want without instigating violence in America, in this country?
In this country?
Yeah, because in 2020 I couldn't do it, right? If I had an opinion that was contrary to the government's opinion, CDC, NIH, etc., my YouTube channel could get banned, videos got deleted, Instagram accounts, Facebook accounts got deleted, banned, shadow banned, etc. But now in 2025, it feels like there is a switch. Mm-hmm. They let us talk about vaccines.
Yeah.
YouTube. Maximum what they do is they can demonetize the video, mm-hmm. but they will not delete it. Mm-hmm. But is there a First Amendment truly in America right now?
I think it matters where you live, and I think it matters how you define freedom, because when you see these protests and people out, they can be attacked. So I don't feel like that's free. But are you talking about, is there government surveillance and censorship? Definitely not the same as what we saw in the Biden administration. I think there's definitely more freedom. Is the government still surveilling us? Absolutely. Are they deplatforming us and demonetizing us and putting people in jail for spreading misinformation like they were? Or not, putting them in jail, taking away their licenses or subjecting them to professional discipline and then taking away their licenses? No, I don't hear that now. Anymore.
That's good.
Right. I mean, obviously that was insane what we saw during COVID in the Biden administration. I mean, and we saw the Ministry of Truth or Ministry, there was a lot of stuff that's happening. I can't say that for our friends across the pond and in other countries, but at least there is the semblance of free speech right now. I definitely feel safer than I did during COVID.
So let's take California. California, in my opinion, is, if that would be a separate country, that would be the best country in the world. Because nature-wise, mountains, ocean, skiing, Lake Tahoe, Yosemite Park, amazing. The weather is amazing. If anyone, have you ever been to Florida?
No.
You've never been to Florida?
No, I can't go there. I feel if I go there, I would go to Miami and then I'd never come home.
You will come home in 2 days. Because in summer, 2 minutes, you're sweating. That's it. You're out. Humidity is crazy right there. So I love California. People-wise, nature-wise, climate-wise. But legislature-wise, California is the worst of all, right?
It's one of the most dangerous states in the country.
Is there anything that is California legislature-wise better than, let's say, Florida or Texas? No. How come?
How come?
Yeah.
I think it's
been a work.
Yeah, the communists, they've infiltrated. I personally believe that we're at war. Okay, it's not a war of tanks and guns. I made this analogy, and I can't remember who I was talking to, like Naomi Wolf or who was I talking to? I can't remember, but we were on a podcast, and they were like, "Wow." They hadn't thought about it like that. It's information, it's censorship. It was, at that time it was the vaccines and masks and all of that stuff. I do legitimately feel like we're in a war, and the wars that they wage are different now because they have technology and they have different systems and they have geoengineering and they spray us and they poison our water and they use social media to control us and to, what's it called? Propagandize us and to brainwash us is the word that I was looking for. So we're at war, and when you're at war and you're trying to either it's national, right, our own government against us, but it's also global. And the United States used to be a superpower. I guess it still is. I think it's in weird state of flux right now. But when you want to take down a country, a superpower, you cannot go in and take the United States out with our own guns and our military and their guns and our tanks. There's just no way. We have so many that we sell them to our enemies. I mean, we got a lot of armor and power. So they're not going to do it that way. So they're going to come in and they're going to infiltrate the churches and the seminaries and the schools and the universities. They're going to buy up the land. They're going to poison the water. So they're trying to take down this country.
Enemies from within, or?
I think it's both, because at the end of the day, I think it's everybody, because I think that the elite group that really runs the show is, like I said in the beginning, it's made up of everybody. It's all like the top, and they don't follow political party lines, and it's just like for them it's us against them, humanity, and so they want to infiltrate. And so why is California always under attack? Because people really like it, so they put up with a lot of it. But I also think from a militaristic wartime perspective, you got to take the high grounds. You got to take the strongholds, and the strongholds are the coast, right? Because if you can take down California, you can take down Florida, which you can't right now, it doesn't look like, or New York, and then Illinois, you can take all the borders and you can cannibalize the country and control them by controlling, transport or transit, freely moving people and things in and out of the country. So I think, to me, it's always been an attack like that. And then people put up with it because, California is the best place in the country. New York City is the best place. People stay there because they really like it. So they put up with a lot. There's a lot of opportunity, resources there, and people really like it. So those are the reasons why I think they come after California.
So in January there were LA fires, right? Santa Ana winds. You remember that? You remember Pacific Palisades burned down? Have you ever been to Pacific Palisades?
Yes.
One of the most beautiful places in Southern California, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Beautiful. The hills, homes, everything. It's like Newport Beach where we're at right now. So back then, I want to say 2, 3, 4 weeks after the fires, there were rumors. There were rumors that. In Pacific Palisades, they're about to build the affordable houses. And everybody was saying, freaking out, no, there's no way. Is it true that Newsom is about to sign the bill that they can do it legally with affording housing in Pacific Palisades?
So I heard that the bill got pulled. I heard that the bill got pulled. And it's Senator Ben Allen. It was his bill, and it got pulled. So I think that is off the table for now. However, you've seen the Spencer Pratt, Gavin Newsom feud that's happening right now. So I think that there's more that's going to happen. I think there are different things that they're going to do with the Palisades. It's like Lahaina, huge money grab, a lot of money there. People were not going to give it. It's very prime real estate, very expensive. They didn't want to pay for it, so they burned it down. And we're hoping to force people off the land. But the thing that's different about Palisades than Lahaina, and I'm going to speak very generally about people. I spent a lot of time. I have friends and family in Hawaii, in Lahaina. Friends who are like family in Maui. I spent a lot of time, my childhood, like half of my life, more than half of my life, 3/4 of my life, going to Maui, like at least twice a year, spending weeks and weeks there with family. Friends who are family. And I also know a lot of people, spend a lot of time in the Palisades. The thing that's different with the Palisades and then Lahaina is that there's a lot of money there. I mean, we're talking very mega wealthy people. So for Gavin to come in and his cronies to come in and BlackRock or whoever they're working with. I mean, I know BlackRock is bigger than all of those people, but like these people have resources. They're not going to we're talking about Hollywood producers and Silicon Valley. Who's who is in Palisades. So I was like, this is like not a great place to try and fight this fight, Maybe somewhere that's not as affluent, but still on the coast. I was very surprised. I thought it was about the high-speed rail. There were a lot of rumors going around about that they wanted to have the high-speed rail go through there at one point. I haven't really heard that much about it.
Through Pacific Palisades? Mm-hmm. What for?
To have it go through. It has to go through somewhere.
But not through the most beautiful place in LA.
They don't care. They just care about money and efficiency.
Okay, so let's say I owned a house at Pacific Palisades. Yeah. It got burned down.
Yes.
But I still own the land.
Yes.
How can they make me sell the land?
Because you need to make your mortgage payments, and you now have to rent another house, and then you've heard about the whole like insurance debacle.
Yeah, but if my home costs $20 million, right. I have $200 million in my bank account. I don't care.
Of course. So for those people, but there are a lot of people, like my friends' homes burned down. They obviously do very well for themselves, but continue to pay, most of them don't own the land, or they're still paying down the land. So you have a $4 million mortgage payment or $2 million mortgage payment, and then now you've had to relocate your family, and now you're paying $15,000, $25,000. I mean, there were sick people who jacked up their rent to, because they knew that we're going to have this, kind of trapped, captured pool of tenants that they need or going to be desperate for to keep their kids near their schools and stay near work where you've lived your whole life. So now I'm paying a mortgage of whatever it is on a $2, $3, $4 million home, and I'm paying $25,000 in rent, and I'm paying for my kid's child's, the school, and my insurance got canceled. And even if I had insurance, it takes 5 hours to get one answer to a question, but I'm trying to work and I'm trying to rebuild the home and all of these things. Like it's one of those examples where they're not going to say we're taking your homes. We're going to make it impossible or extremely difficult for you to rebuild. And by the way, that was one of the things that Spencer was talking about. He was getting fined for not picking up or clearing out the debris, but then at the same time wasn't allowed to go clean out the debris. And also they weren't letting you in because it's like, oh, there's possible landslides. Oh, it might be, there's toxicity because there's so much chemicals now that got burned and now is in the ground. It's not safe. So they just it's what they do, right? They make it, they're smarter than that, right? They're smarter than that. So they have us over leveraged, overextended, super stressed out, very distracted, worrying about all these things all the time. They're attacking our children all the time. They're raising prices, increasing the gas tax, all the things that they're doing. And then your home burns down. And obviously that's top priority, but all these other things are happening and they make it impossible for you to get ahead.
Okay, let's say I own the house, I own the land, I don't have a mortgage in Pacific Palisades, right?
Okay, sure.
And I can't rebuild the house?
I don't know. It's like
You have to get the license to rebuild.
you own the land.
Yes.
But they always, for your health and safety, until it gets like, what is it called, tagged or something, they have to go in and have to make sure that it's safe for you to go in there and rebuild.
And they don't get insurance?
Who doesn't get insurance?
Whose house burned down?
Some insurance companies canceled policies right before the fires
How can you do that?
because that's what they do.
That's crooked.
There was a really good Bobby. His handle is Take Naps. He's super funny. He did a whole breakdown. They basically, what happened in California is, in your original question, is California the worst? Yes. California passed a bill that capped I think it was the premiums. They capped the premiums, or they did a bill that restricted how much insurance companies could charge. Obviously, if you have a piece of property in a fire zone or a place where there could be a fire hazardous area, you're going to charge, and it's worth $20 million because it's on a cliff on the coast in the Palisades, you're going to charge more. And they're like, no, we want to protect the little guy, but basically capped insurance premiums. So what did insurance companies do, which was within their contracts to do, was they canceled it. It just happened to happen. Do I think that was an accident? Absolutely not. Do I think that these insurance policies came up for renewal and were canceled by the insurance companies right before fire season? No, that makes sense. They're like, we're not going to keep insuring your property. The contract's up. We're going to cancel it. Go find more insurance. Do I think that the government knew that and that the fires happened shortly thereafter? They knew a lot of insurance policies were not going to be renewed? Probably.
I just heard the other day that there was, in the 1950s to 60s, the New York Dodgers, the NFL baseball, they went from New York to LA, and when they built the LA Dodger Stadium,
Yeah.
they did the same thing with the locals. They bought out the land, but not for the best price,
Right.
not for the best interest of those people that live there.
Right. And if you see
This is bullying.
yeah.
Democrats are all about against bullying, right?
Right. In New Jersey right now, there's an ordinance that passed in New Jersey that a certain amount of depending on the population of the towns, a certain amount of the land needs to be for low-income housing. And there's a ranch or a farm that's there right now that's literally been in this family since before the Civil War. Like, they were like original settlers, and it's just passed down from generation to generation. And the government, the state of New Jersey came and said, we're gonna, we want to buy your land for like some horrible price. They were just like, what? That is not
Even for $1 billion.
even for
if
$1
I
billion,
don't want to sell.
you don't want to sell it. And
Right.
so the options are, you can sell it to us for this price, whatever, good or bad, or we're going to take it via eminent domain, which is the
Eminent
government
domain.
gets to take it for a legitimate government purpose, and they just have to compensate you fair price. But again, like you said,
Is it legal?
yeah, eminent domain is legal.
It's in the Constitution.
I don't think it's in the Constitution. It's a law.
How can they take your land?
That's like the thing about, so, my family's from South America, and they fled socialist country.
From Argentina.
From Argentina. And they fled.
If you get closer to the mic, please.
Okay, so my family is from Argentina, and so I'm very, well aware of government shenanigans, and really just socialism. And whenever I would go down to visit, they'd be complaining about this guy, and then they did this, and then they took money. And even when I was young, I will give myself this credit. I just remember thinking, because I always was raised, my grandma and my mom always told me, what we were just talking about a second ago, was like, it's us against them, and the them is like not who you see. It's a small elite group. So they actually told me when I was younger, fighting whatever things, like, you're not even fighting against the right people. These people that you see are the people that they put there in the forefront for you to have enemies, to be targeted, to target your hatred to, or your vitriol towards. And they're like, that's like the first line of defense. So I always knew this in my head. So I did have that in the back of my head. And when I would go to Argentina, they would be complaining about the government because the government was horribly corrupt and horrible. And they didn't care. They flaunted it. They're all the things. And I remember saying, we do the exact same thing here in the United States. We just do it by proper channels, in nice prolijo. Is like when you're all prolijo, is like you're all buttoned up with your little suit and tie, and you go with your briefcase to Congress, and you do all these horrible things. It just looks a little bit nicer in the United States. I mean, it's always been that way. So and that's why all these bills are so dangerous, and they're so important that we fight them. Especially, I know we're I don't know how much longer we have, but I will say.
We have all them in the world.
Oh, okay, good. So that's why these bad bills are so important to fight, because as a lawyer, my success and my efficacy it's directly proportional to the tools in my toolkit, to my arsenal, right? So if I have to, when I go to court next time, try and argue that this law that they acted under is illegal, and then prove my case, it's just so much better that we just don't let bad illegal laws pass, because they're illegal. A lot of them are unconstitutional. A lot of them strip you of your First Amendment rights to exercise your religion, to speak freely, to direct the education, upbringing and care of your child. There's so many things that they're illegal. But first, then we need now a lawsuit to set aside this horrible law, and then all the lawsuits to make the people whole who were injured as a result of these illegal laws that should never have been passed to begin with. And I would say that, the pesticide bill is very, very, very bad. It's a federal bill. It's going to be horrible on the state level. And we should absolutely be paying attention. And we have killed bad federal bills. So we definitely need to do it, especially because you're doing it from your home instead of scrolling on social media endlessly and mindlessly for 2 hours. Can you just spend 6 minutes and call these people who I spent 3 hours, not 3 hours, spent an hour downloading all of their phone numbers and writing them and sending them in a Substack directly to your inbox? Can you just take 20 minutes to make a phone call? Because I just spent like 5 hours doing that.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
No one's going to listen to the people.
No, I'm saying in order to make all the phone calls,
all the
phone calls to the 80 representatives takes 20, not even 20 minutes. It does not take 20 minutes, right? But let's just say, focus locally. Like, the reason why the mandates did not roll out across the country the way that they wanted it to roll out across the country is that we had all these strongholds across the country that just did not, they held out.
You mean the COVID era?
In the COVID era. So I can only really speak to my advocacy work starting COVID era, and that's what I saw. I just saw this county and this county and this region and these schools and these, X, Y, or even like in terms of, in the workforce, there were certain, I think it was like in the oil rigs, and they're like, yeah, you got to get vaccinated and wear a mask. And they're like, no freaking way. They're like, no. They literally all walked off the job site one day, and within 2 hours, like, okay, there's no more mandate. That's how it's supposed to,
How about
happen.
The doctors, nurses, teachers?
I know.
If they quit their jobs.
Right.
Nurses?
Right. It's that everybody's scared.
Nicole, I'm 37 years old. I might be stupid, right? But can you explain me lobbyism? Why is it legal? And
I
how is it
actually
legal?
don't know. I actually don't like it at all. And I have friends that want to be lobbyists, and I have work with lobbyists. I'm just like, I'm the constituent. I literally pay this person's salary.
Correct.
This person is accountable to me. He's a public servant. She's a public servant. Your opinion
Just
should
like
not
police
be,
officers, firefighters, doctors, politicians, right?
Right.
All public servants.
Right. Like, I don't need an appointment. I mean, I do need an appointment. People, they need to be able to work, right? If they didn't have appointments, then they wouldn't be able to get anything done, as if they do anything anyways. But No, I don't understand lobbyists. I don't. And I have a friend who wants to be a lobbyist, and God bless his soul if he wants to do it. And his position is that it's all about relationships and access. And I'm just like, it shouldn't be like that. That's like part of the problem, in my opinion. And there shouldn't be lobbyist groups and organizations. I mean, I guess maybe I'm a lobbyist group for parental rights and for informed consent and medical freedom. So I guess maybe I don't want to. I mean, should I register as a lobbyist? I don't know. But I don't know enough about it. But what I've seen, we've worked with a great lobbyist. He's amazing. He and his wife are amazing, and they've opened a lot of doors for us. But it makes me mad. I'm like, why do I have to pay you $100,000 that we do not have?
$100,000.
Yeah, to work for us. Yep.
It's like basically a middleman.
Yep.
Why do we need a middleman? The problem, so I had this problem with the Christianity, with Catholicism for 35 years, because I never understood the middleman.
Right.
If I want to pray to God, why do I have to go to church?
And you don't.
And why do I have to have a priest? Or he has to let go of my sins. I don't need the middleman. Thank you.
Right.
But in the Bible it says, no.
Right.
You can pray. I can pray in my head right now.
When
while we're
Jesus
doing
died,
podcast.
the veil dropped. And,
Correct, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
By faith alone. It's the gift from God, by the grace of God.
Right.
What's up with the whole situation with the 2020 elections, with Georgia especially? You were working on that case?
Yes.
So were there officially recognized voter fraud?
Yes. Well, what happens is it's semantics, right? Basically what they do is they inflate the voter rolls, and they have people who are dead or who've moved from the county. I know it's true. People who are like 110 years old voting. So they keep what the Democrats do, which is really interesting because if anybody knows about Dominion voting machines, the Dominion voting machines were brought in by Republicans to flip an election, and then it's been kind of co-opted or taken over by the Democrats.
When did they do that?
I think it was in the 2016 election.
Really?
It was a Republican effort.
And Tucker was ousted for this.
Mm-hmm. So anyways, my point to you is in our lawsuits, what we discovered is that you're supposed to be under the National Voter Registration, NVRA, National Voter Registration Act. You are supposed to be basically doing maintenance constantly of your voter rolls and removing people who are no longer in your county, residing in your county. And so you send out notices, and obviously people can send in when they move, through the post office, they change their address, they can send in something to the county that says, please remove me from my voter roll, then you register in another county. But they're also supposed to be actively maintaining their voter rolls, and so they don't do that. Or what they did was something that's very, not complex, but what they did was this Democrat run organization. It's very convoluted, but they came in, they're like, we'll do your voter roll cleanups, we'll maintain your voter rolls for you. And so they did this really horrible thing. We have a big lawsuit in Wisconsin that is against these two organizations to take them down, because they basically created the opportunities for these. So my name is on a voter roll. I no longer live in that county. I live in another county. Someone comes, and because there's no ID requirement, they vote for me. And it's not until after the election and when you go to court, like we went to court, unless there's actual harm, so unless you lose the election and unless you can prove that your client's vote was taken by someone who was not them, unless you can prove that, and there's like 400,000 votes that were cast, you need to be able to prove that it's very extremely difficult to do, then they throw your case out of court.
So you're trying to take down those two companies. Mm-hmm. Is anyone going to jail, to prison?
Might be me, because it's very big.
You're not kidding?
That we're going against. Well, I mean, I have not done anything illegal for the record, but they like to make up things. And
was that Wisconsin or Georgia, the spike in votes during the night, 3 a.m., right?
3 a.m.
Was that Georgia?
It was Georgia. Yeah, excuse me, it was Georgia, yeah.
What's the official explanation of that spike?
No, I don't know.
Magic?
Yeah. Democrat magic.
Is there anything else that we need to touch on this podcast?
Yes. So in California right now, so I really want to emphasize that, especially in today, when there's just so much coming at us all the time, I would love just to focus, especially with AI. I think it's made it so obvious that like this, what you and I are doing, the human connection is more important now more than ever. I want everyone to think about that it's hard because we're on a podcast and it's going to be on social media and then people are going to be on their phones and computers watching this. So it's like this necessary evil. And I hate that term, necessary evil. I'm like, it's either evil and I don't want it, or it's necessary and I want it. I don't like to mince words. I don't like necessary evil. So which was another reason I didn't come on your podcast, and Apollo knows this. I told him, I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to suck people in because it's going to be such a riveting conversation. I want people to be in the real world, talking to each other and spending time with their kids and their families. And, I think that's just super important. Hopefully people can learn how to use social media and technology in a way that doesn't strip them from those, that gut check and that human reality that you have living your soul, your heart, your spirit. Like, it's just so important now. So I just hope that everybody watches this and then puts down their phone and spends time in making human connections. And then that everybody remembers that you have the greatest impact locally where you live. And that is critical. We would not have had the success that we had basically defeating COVID or whatever that was, the pandemic, if we didn't have, like I said, those little footholds all across the country, holding firm, rejecting mandates, rising up, saying no, not complying. Like, that is super important. And just remember our humanity, that regardless of our religion or where we live, that we just have basic human dignity to live healthy lives without being poisoned, or and free, happy and free lives. Like they said, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I just hope that things are scary and things are overwhelming, and AI is scary, and they're trying to force us into this digital alternate universe. And I hope people remember that that's not reality, and that this is reality.
And I've been following you on Instagram for, let's say, a year minimum, and technology messes with you, right? Mm-hmm. How come? You got those documents that you can even see a word. Mm-mm. Is that on one specific laptop?
So there's stuff that happens to me on Instagram, which is actually way better. Before, it was really bad. During COVID, Biden era, it was very bad. Like, they would just shut down our lives, shut down our accounts, deplatform us, literally remove people I would be friends with. And they would be like, why don't you follow me anymore? Which is lame in of itself. But we were friends. So they were like, what happened? And I was like, I did nothing. I didn't do anything. They would take down posts. They would stop lives. They would interrupt our feeds and put me in Instagram jail or whatever it was. But I sue the government. And so I go to government courts and I go to government judges, and I've never worked harder in my entire career put together up until 2020. I've never worked, actually up until the last 2 years, I have not worked harder than I have now, because it's insane, because we are winning. We're winning our lawsuits. We're winning in the court of public opinion, like this, people waking up, and I'm right on the law. I would not do what I do if I did not know, be away from my family, alienate people, spend my free time writing blogs and analyzing bills. I do not get paid for. I do all of this except for my lawsuits. Some of them I do get paid for, but I would say 80% of my work is not paid.
80%?
Yeah. I've been working a lot, so maybe 60% of my work is unpaid, because I know that I'm right. And I know that if these bills pass, and I know that if we let the courts shift the definition, start shifting it further and further away from, parental rights, what that means, or free speech, what that means, or free exercise of religion. We have to stop that from happening.
Because there is no way back.
There's no way back. Like I said.
Once you lose it, that's it, you're done.
It's gone. And so, we're winning, and people woke up, and people snapped out of the COVID fog, and so we're winning, and the judges, it just takes, courage is contagious, right? It just took one little win and one little victory here, and speaking about this, and our not propaganda, but like are spreading the truth. And you win in the court of public opinion before you win in the court of law. So when the judges are like, oh, this girl has 60,000 followers and she's going to get in the car after this hearing and she's going to read my ruling and then she's going to explain. He doesn't care, but he's like, they know, people know. And at the end of the day, these people are human beings. So I think, I only go to bed with, every night, the one person I go to bed with every single night, consistently without fail, is myself. And I think that at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we have that little voice in the back of our heads. And I think these judges are seeing it. These politicians are seeing it. They're like, ooh, this is not as easy as it used to be. And so they're starting to come back. Maybe they're still on the dark side, but just not being they're like, I can't do it. This is too extreme. This is too egregious.
Nicole, I have the same question on my podcast that is always the same in the last one. So let's have two assumptions with you. Assumption number one is the President of the United States of America is the most powerful human being on planet Earth. Assumption number two is you become one. You become the President of the US. The first woman, the first female, right? And you have all those Secret Services, three-letter agencies at your disposal. They come to you and say, congratulations, Mrs. Pearson, we love you, you're the president now. You have now all the information in the world. You ask us, we give you an honest answer. Mm-hmm. What would be your first question?
This is going to be such an obnoxious answer. I really don't give a shit. Like, I don't want to know anything. It's too much to know and to try and understand and to undo. I don't want to know. I would probably dismantle them. So I probably wouldn't love me as much as you're suggesting in this hypothetical scenario. I would just want to move forward because I just don't care. I just don't care. It's too big for me to comprehend, number one. Number two, I'm such an empathetic person. It probably would destroy me to know the truth about what's really happened. Even the little bit that I do know from this work and like digging and reading has been like really hard to process. And I would just be like so excited that I was in the government and then just kind of break it and move forward from something totally different from that.
Let's say you find out the truth about 9/11. Mm-hmm. Let's say you find out that this was an inside job. You as a president, would you expose it to the public?
Well, I mean, that assumes the public doesn't know. So you're saying the majority
the public doesn't know. The official narrative is what? Osama bin Laden, Mohammed Atta.
Yeah, I guess, right. Probably. Like I said, if I was president, we would be moving in a different form of government in a different direction. Okay, so it would be like, what's the point?
But there would be questions. Let's say for your press secretary, and from press secretary, you would have gotten those questions. Would you release JFK files? How about 9/11? What about the Epstein? What about the moon landing? People are asking since you're so sincere.
Yeah.
And you get the answers. You got all the information. You got the truth. Expose it, or keep it and lying. Keep it.
I would expose it. I would probably make an online library and everybody can just go read the information that they want for themselves. I know that there's an argument that if you do that, you're going to make everybody's heads explode and it's going to be worse.
Cause chaos.
Yeah, but I think that they just say that because they underestimate the human spirit and our capacity to understand. And they don't. The people that are saying that are the people that don't want you to know, right? They're, oh God, we'll have chaos. We won't be able to control you. Yeah, that's the point. That's why I would expose it, because people need to know that they've been controlled by monsters that literally will kill their own citizens, thousands of their own citizens, to justify something that they know their citizens. I mean, if you look at every single war, this is a little. You have to put all the pieces together, but support would be waning. There would be some sort of attack, and then all of a sudden, the American people would be 100% behind what was going on. So,
can you name at least one war where the bad guys won?
What do you? Can you ask your question a different way?
Is there any war in the history of humanity?
Well, define who the bad guys are.
Bad guys won. Let's say World War II, the good guys won. Okay, World War I, the good guys won. Napoleon, the good guys won. Every war, only the good guys win.
I don't think that's accurate.
Strange coincidence. Maybe we just write the history.
We
When
just
we
write,
win,
I mean,
we
yeah,
just read.
exactly. The good guy, I mean, the people who write, it's the same thing, right? The people who are writing it are obviously going to be saying that they won, and this is why. And they were going, and they're also going to say, and it was justified because we were going after the bad guys.
Thank you. So this podcast was more than a year in the making, and I'm happy we did it.
Yeah.
God bless you. God bless you, your whole family, your three amazing children. And guys, if you follow Nicole on Instagram, you're going to see those stories. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., she's working. Hardware is messing up. And 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 3 kids. I have no idea how do you do it. So we were coming to Newport to do this podcast today. And my wife was asking, is she on something? There's no way. Because there's no way.
No, I'm like,
3 kids.
no, I know. I mean, I don't sleep that much. Honestly, I'm on, look, I don't know if you want to get it. This is my second thing of coffee. And you can tell because I have the water filled the coffee mug.
You're caffeine driven.
I am caffeine driven. I am God driven, and I'm freedom driven. I'm definitely driven. You know, I do it for myself as well. I live here. My children live here. This is the legacy. What kind of world do I want to leave for my children? I actually used to have a lot of guilt. So I'm sure a lot of my work is even like guilt driven, where I'm like, I don't want to leave this place and turn and say to my kids, like, I'm out of here. Good luck. Like, I can't. So I think, you know, I do it for myself as well. I do it for my own children and my own freedom and my own peace of mind. And I'm just like a doer. You can ask my therapist. Maybe you have my therapist on the podcast. He'll tell you what's there's a lot of things going on. But no, I mean,
But eventually, at the end of the day, you can't lose California. Once you lose California, you're done.
Correct.
As California goes, America goes.
And California is a sanctuary state. And we should probably talk about one more bill, even though I loved your ending. You can splice it up, right? California is a sanctuary state, so really no child in the country is safe because they can be brought here to receive sexual reproductive health care or gender affirming care. And California, Gavin Newsom, literally, and Nancy Skinner and Senator Scott Wiener, who were the authors of the bills who allowed this, said if a child is brought here to California to receive sexual reproductive health care or gender affirming care, we will not honor the laws, the orders, the court rulings, the subpoenas, the warrants of other states. Our goal is we're a sanctuary state for these children, and so we're going to protect the children. So
Protecting the children means chopping off their breasts or dicks.
giving them an abortion, giving them meds, giving them these things. So if your daughter you live in Tennessee and your daughter is in a 16, 14, 15 in a relationship with an 18-year-old guy, and you don't want to get her an abortion, I'll think of a better state. Let's think of a better state that has, you know, more strict abortion laws, and he brings her here, or your ex-husband, or, you know, whoever, or the neighbor, the creepy neighbor who's abusing her, brings her to California. Here are all the things that can happen to her. Okay? And you have legal custody. So, you know, let's just say it's your neighbor who's been abusing her and now she's pregnant. So he brings her here, and he can, you come and you say, I have custody. California, you come with the sheriffs, and you come with a warrant, and you come, and what should happen is the law enforcement should comply with the orders, and California says that they don't have to anymore. Obviously, you have constitutional sheriffs who will probably uphold the Constitution anyways, but the current law says that we do not need to extradite you. Let's say it's your ex-husband and you have legal custody and your daughter's supposed to be with you in legal custody, and you come with your custody order and say, the court in Tennessee says I have custody, he does not have custody, he does not have the authority to have her, bring her to a different state, or authorize any medical care for her. They say, we will not pay attention. He's here to get her an abortion. He's here to get her hormone puberty blockers. We don't care. We are not going to pay attention. So that happens. But let's go worse.
And once it's done, it's done.
And
Abortion
it's
is
done.
complete. That's
It's
it.
done.
Baby is killed.
baby's killed, your daughter is forever changed and traumatized and horrible. But let's go to the other example. It's the abusive boyfriend or the creepy neighbor or whatever it is brings her here. And now she's here. Christopher Ward, a legislator, an assemblyman here, last year passed, well, I testified against, AB495, which is a bill that says any adult that brings a child to court to change that child's name, gender, sex identifier can do so. It doesn't have to be their parent, it doesn't have to be their legal guardian. Allegedly, there have to be some attempts made to contact the parent or guardian, family members, can do so and can do so confidentially. And confidentially is way worse than under seal, because under seal is a procedure, there's a process that you have to file with the court, there has to be a hearing, you have to notify all the interested parties. So he literally circumvented all of the laws to protect minors and says that an adult, any adult, can bring the child and change her name.
But that's kidnapping.
Well, the kidnapping is moving the body, right? But let's just say another example. Your kid's here, okay? You live in California.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 14-year-old and your normal hormone things, middle school, high school things are happening. You guys are fighting. Well, fortunately for your child and unfortunately for you, Senator Scott Wiener and Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo passed Assembly Bill 665 last year that we fought tooth and nail over, all of us. It was a horrible bill. Nobody was paying attention to it. AB 665 changed the existing law, which used to say that a child could leave home and go check into a residential shelter, a government residential shelter, if they came with allegations of abuse, incest, or danger, like they were going to kill themselves, or they wanted to kill their parents, or their parents were going to kill them, whatever. Automatically, no questions asked, they could go into a government residential shelter. What Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo said and what Senator Scott Wiener said, because of insurance, they said some kids get insurance coverage and other ones don't. We got to get rid of the insurance requirements. They created a whole fake lie. It was horrible. Like I said, they never tell you what they're really doing. But they changed the language so that all insurance could apply by taking away those three kind of requirements. You can only get in here if you're the victim of abuse, incest, or you're in danger. They took away those requirements. So now any child 12 and older who's deemed a mature 12-year-old, mature minor is what it's called, can check into a residential shelter. So right now, your child, you get in a fight with your child about their grades, or they're doing drugs, or they're having sex.
Or I didn't buy the new iPhone.
Or they're on social media, you don't like their TikTok, whatever happens with 14-year-olds and their parents and the 13-year-olds and all the reasons that you fought with your parents when you were 12 to 16, that happens. Now they can go without saying my mom's abusing me. You didn't abuse her or him. You did not hit him. You are not abusing them sexually, nothing. They can check into a residential shelter where we now know that there are people, medical professionals they're called, counselors, therapists who are adults can now, with Assembly Bill 223, take your child away and change their name, gender, sex identifier. So your child is gone and they don't have to contact, no efforts to contact.
How does that help?
They have to make an effort. They have to say, we made a good faith effort. But if they don't get a hold of you, they don't get a hold of you. And this can happen. Right now, Rick Zabur out of California, out of obviously California, but Los Angeles, has Assembly Bill 1084 that says that those confidential name changing, birth record changing proceedings are expedited. So it happened in less than 6 weeks. So if you're in a fight with your kid and your kids run away from home and you don't know where he or she is, or you have like spotty contact with him or her, if you don't get it together and get your child back in your home in 6 weeks, their name, gender, and sex identifier, their birth records, their records of who they are can be completely erased without you knowing.
How does that help? How does that help a child?
It does not. It helps traffickers and groomers and pedophiles and rapists and people who want to abuse children and take advantage of children. It helps remove them from their homes and then erase any trace of that child so that you cannot find your child and protect your child. That is the reality of California. That is why California is one of the worst states. That, coupled with the fact that it's a sanctuary state. No child in this country is safe with the laws that are currently in place in California and that they want to implement right now in California this legislative session.
Horrendous.
And the last bill that is happening right now, that is the biggest fight that you will see going viral on social media, is Assembly Bill 495. This one is, they bootstrap these bills. So we'll get them out of the House, right? Then we're going to allow this adult to change their name. Okay, here comes Rick. We're going to expedite it. So we have all these pieces that are being put together to create this puzzle where they can, and we know what's happening in public schools, bringing it full circle to AB 84. One of the reasons that people are fleeing public schools is because the Attorney General, the Superintendent, Rob Bonta, Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, Gavin Newsom, are all passing bills to make it legal for teachers to hide secrets from parents about their child. Mm-hmm. And we know, because we see it on social media, that these teachers have perverted, weird libraries, personal libraries in their classrooms. They hold secret camps, perverted camps. Boys love boys, girls love girls. Let's talk about love. What these weird camps, they have secret closets where your child can come and dress up, come in their clothes that you send them off in. You have no idea what's going on. They change in the secret closet and they live a completely alternate life while at school. And then you wonder why your kid comes home and is like edgy, or like why they're mad at you, because you know when you're little and you don't like, you feel guilty about something, so you're mean to people. Or even now, I do that now as an adult, but you're mean because you know you did something wrong, and so now we're fighting, and now they can go to the residential shelter, and now so it's a perfect storm in California where they're trying to alienate your children from you, and then they come with resources. Here are the resources for you. Assembly Bill 727 is also being passed right now, or is passing through the legislature. That is a bill that says that every school ID from 7th grade up has to have the Trevor Projects. So now we're creating this volatile home life with your child because we teach them and talk to them and show them inappropriate things at school. Then we keep it secret from you because that's the law that Gavin Newsom and Rob Bonta and Tony Thurmond are literally suing parents over to enforce, and school boards like Sonia Shah. We're making it legal for them to create confusion, keep secrets from the parent.
Lie.
So now the parent comes and is like, hey, something's going on with little Bobby. I don't know what's going on. And they don't have to tell you. And they show you all his paperwork. And his paperwork says Bobby, but really he's going by Belinda and has a total different life. And they are allowed to legally show you the different paperwork. And so now they've created this whole thing. And now we have the Trevor Project. So when your kid is having this really kind of not volatile, but even just uncomfortable life, because you think everything is the end of the world, right? So you're kind of fighting with your parents, but you think it's the end of the world. Now we have Trevor Project, AB 727 on the back of our card. We don't know who we're talking to. They give us ideas. Here are the names to residential shelters in your area. Maybe just go hang out there for a little bit.
We get sent to travel space.
And all these things are happening. And so now, in addition to what we have, as if it wasn't bad enough, because until Assembly Bill 495 was presented this year, we had adults that could help get your children out of their homes and change their names, but they still didn't have legal custody of your child. So enter Celeste Rodriguez with Assembly Bill 495. Assembly Bill 495 does not take away your legal rights. It doesn't cut off custody in technically, but in effect it does. Why? Because Assembly Bill 495 says that you can print a caretaker's affidavit authorization from the internet. You can Google it right now. They exist right now. They actually exist right now, but they're only used in dependency and probate proceedings when a child's parents are like, in an accident and die, or they're hospitalized, or they are in jail, or they're on drugs, and they remove the child from the home. You can download this form, and anyone, not just a relative, which under existing law, a relative is the 5th degree of kinship, which is great, and includes step parents and even exes. So your great step grandpa's ex-wife would be considered kin under existing law. She wants to expand that. So it's not just all those people, but also a non-relative extended family member is the language that she's using.
Basically anyone.
Okay, and she tries to say it, non-relative family member. A non-relative family member is not a family member.
Non-relative family member.
It's an oxymoron. It doesn't exist. This person, including but not limited to a teacher, which we just went over all the things that teachers are doing, a mentor, no definition of what a mentor is, a medical
No
professional.
credentials to be a mentor, right?
Also, we know that. Medical professional, not your child's medical provider, which why would your child's pediatrician is not going to take custody of your child, but medical professional, family friend, or neighbor. That's what she wants to have, be able to fill out this authorization and with no fingerprinting, no interview, no background check, no photo ID requirement, no hearing, none of the things. You don't have to file this paperwork with anything. This adult can come to your child's school with this authorization and no parental consent, notice, signature, nothing, and can unenroll your child from school, maybe or maybe not enroll your child into another school, and then authorize every type of medical care that the school provides. So now we had that whole thing that was already existing over here, and now we have the paper that will make it official. That not only is your child disappeared and we can't find him or her, but now someone else does have physical custody of your child pursuant to this piece of
They
paper.
changed the name.
They've already changed the name. That's happening, right? But as a parent, there's physical and legal custody of children. Physical is who the child lives with, and legal custody is the right to make those fundamental parenting decisions. Medical care, education, just religion, all of those things. So legal custody is who's the parent who gets to make those decisions. Most times it's 50-50, and only in certain circumstances is one have more than the other. So like I said, it does not take away, AB495 does not take away legal custody for you. However, when your child is not living in your home and you don't know where that child is, and this person can enroll or unenroll your child, which is one of your fundamental rights as a parent, and authorize medical treatment, any type of medical treatment for your child, drugs, therapy, gender, for whatever it is, abortion. You don't know where to find your kid because that expedited process, you didn't find her in 6 weeks and now she's erased. You don't have any rights. Your child is gone. That's the reality of the situation. Then, and there is misinformation. People are speaking not accurately about 495. That is how 495 is going to work. It is a license for human traffickers and for kidnappers and pedophiles and rapists to take your child into their home. And then, like I said, because the school is, technically like a backstop, right? Like you have to send your child to school after the age of 6. They have some sort of school. But if they can enroll them, there's no teacher. There's no one watching where your child is, right? And no one knows, okay, you're going to unenroll her, little Susie is gone. They are like, where did you enroll her? Where is she enrolled? They don't follow that. So now your children's out of school. You don't know where she is. And now she's drugged.
This is a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. It is a horrible bill. I cannot speak more loudly and more. I'm terrified. And what they're saying about this bill is that it's for children of undocumented immigrants, that all of a sudden their parents are gone. They're detained by ICE, or they're worse, they're deported. And these children are like in their cribs and no one's there to take care of them. These immigrants came, they snuck across the border, they don't have friends and family here, and now they got picked up at, the supermarket and they're out. They're gone, they got deported. What's going on with the kids? What's going on with the kids is that CPS steps in. What usually happens, CPS steps in and immediately tries to place the child with the next of kin. That's always CPS's first goal. I'm not a huge fan of the foster care. I am not a fan of the foster care system.
But it's better than human trafficking.
I am a favor of systems in place to help children who are left, alone. But the system that we have is not great. So I just want to tell you, I understand. I'm not a CPS advocate here, but what I'm saying to you is there are systems in place that already exist for these children. It's like what we talked about before. They already exist. Why are we expanding the definition of who can step in? So I know the author of the original bill that created the original caretaker's affidavit. he and I are working together in opposition of this bill. And he never thought about it the way that I think about it with my experience in immigration and anti-human trafficking. He's coming from a place where the parents are in a car accident and they didn't have a trust and they don't have a power of attorney. And the godparents who are not related, but who've known the kid since they were born, want to step in and take care of the kid, but there's no legal paperwork. Absolutely, that makes sense. But guess what? They file that in the probate court. If there's CPS, there are dependency proceedings in the court. There's a CPS, caseworker that's assigned to the child, checking in on the child. They know where the child is going. So the current existing caretaker's affidavit already exists, but it exists in these systems where we can track the child and then ultimately be reuniting the child with the parent, because in California, reunification with the biological parents is always the ultimate goal. Conversely, we have Celeste Rodriguez saying, this is the Family Planning Prep Act. I can find the name of the bill. Hold on, it's right here. We have Celeste Rodriguez, and she's calling this the Family Preparedness Plan Act of 2025 for the children of undocumented immigrants whose parents can be ripped out of their homes in the middle of the night and nobody knows where they are and they have no friends or family in place. Okay, Celeste, if it's about, she's like, these people need options. These people need, to be able to plan in case of emergency. Fantastic. Then put a signature line at the bottom of the thing. Give these pieces of paper, these affidavits out to undocumented immigrants. You know you're undocumented. You know at this point in time there is a possibility that any minute you could be taken into custody. Start planning. If you are really worried, what Celeste is talking about, and leaving your children alone with no family in the area to take over, then make a plan. Take it. Go get it notarized. It costs $15.
Yeah, but if they don't even speak English.
There are plenty of resources. There are plenty of resources, free resources. By the way, there are apps. Okay, everybody has a cell phone. Okay, everybody, including homeless, like we were talking about earlier. They have cell phones. They have cell phone plans. They can be paid for the government. They are being paid for by the government. And there's tons of legal resources that these undocumented immigrants are already working with. But they also, on their free phones, have apps existing where they are telling each other where ICE, almost like a Waze, where you're like, oh, there's where ICE is so that they can avoid it. They're organizing. Fine, I'm not here to talk about that, but what I'm saying to you is there's no reason why they shouldn't have an affidavit, know what it means, and fill it out with their signature, notarized or not, so that if something does happen to them and they hand it, I'm an undocumented immigrant, I have 3 children, I'm worried I'm gonna be taken away, I download this for free from the internet, or I go to my church where they're handing out resources, or I go to the local, or I go to the court and I get it for free from the courthouse and I fill it out with your name and I leave it with you so that if something happens to me, you have it. That's a family plan, but that's not what Celeste wants. In the bill, it says on the front, there's 8 questions that the person has to ask. No ID. They can check a box that says, I contacted the parents, they know and they're okay with it. Okay. Or they check a box that says, I tried to get a hold of the parent. I couldn't tell them that I'm filling out this affidavit and taking over this physical custody and semi-legal custody of their child. So they just check a box, no ID. The ID says driver's license or your passport, but if you don't have that, then you can use anything on the back. On the back, that's what it says, okay? Also on the back, it says the person, the recipient of this affidavit, so I'm a school official or I'm a medical provider, has no obligation to conduct any inquiry or investigation. None. So you don't even have to ask any questions. You're just going to blindly take them. Because why? Well, don't worry. At the very bottom, it says anyone who relies on this affidavit in good faith, meaning, the child isn't like screaming for help or whatever the case may be. If you come in and my child is there and there doesn't seem to be a problem, I have no obligation to ask any questions. I just take it. And as long as there was nothing that I noticed that was bad, then I face no criminal, no civil, no professional liability for any harm that happens to the child. It is like the perfect storm for every bad actor, from school agents to medical professionals to run-of-the-mill bad actors to take children and do whatever they want with zero legal recourse. There is zero protection, and it's not for children of undocumented immigrants. It's for every child who lives in the state and who's brought to the state because it's a sanctuary state, like we already discussed. I don't know what is going to happen to children in California if this bill passes.
You're on fire with this. You just freaked out a lot of people watching this.
I hope I did. I hope that I did.
This is literally scary. It's like literally scary. And you can listen to it. There's no way it's going to happen to me. But once it happens, God forbid, that's a nightmare. You're going to end your life if I lose my child.
Right.
What's the point of living? And if I lose my child, not in a car accident or something, right? But I know somebody stole my child, and I have no idea what's happening to my child, my son and daughter. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
That's even worse. I met a woman whose child was abducted, and she said, "I wish she had died."
Correct. What's the point of living?
Right. So you know that your child could be out there every day, and she said
sexually exploited. You name it. Working 20 hours a day somewhere in the basement.
And people want to think, again, as someone who's worked in these legal arenas, and you can Google this on the internet. Google what do pedophiles look for when they exploit and abuse children. It's not the creepy man. Sometimes it is the creepy man with the candy at the park that kidnaps your child. But I think it's that 86% of abuse is perpetrated by someone that the child knows, including a neighbor, including a caretaker. Those are the people who are going to use these affidavits to take your children. It could, right? Because a human trafficker, a kidnapper is going to kidnap your kid, whether they have an affidavit or not. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the single mom who has 3 or 4 kids, or even just 1 or 2 kids, who works 3 jobs because they live here, whatever the situation is, and she's not around. And so the neighbor is like, let me help you. When you go Google, you can find, I'll post it to my Instagram and I'll tag you in it. The pedophile said, when the interviewer asked him, how do you target your children? So the first thing I look for is the man. If there is a strong man in the situation, I am not going to go. That's hands off. Second thing I'm going to look at is how the child interacts with other children on the playground. Do they have a lot of friends? Are they really bubbly, effusive? Do they talk a lot? Oh, I'm not going to touch that kid because that kid's going to tell people what happened. I look for the loner kid. I look for the kid whose parents are going through a divorce, who are distracted, who are not paying attention, or who are strapped financially, who are stressed out, and who also are leaving the kid unattended and who need help. And so I will go, or not necessarily, it doesn't have to be divorce. I look for the single mom who needs help. And so then I move in, and I am a trusted member, non-relative extended family member of that family. And then I groom the child. And those are the stages of grooming. And there's 7 stages of grooming, and then they start grooming the child. And then we have the affidavit come in. And so now he takes your child on a vacation, or he or she takes your child, or whatever it is, or fill out this affidavit. I don't need to be related to you. I don't need to file it with anybody. I don't need to do background checks or home visits or hearings or reviews, nothing. I don't have to, it's not going to even get filed anywhere. And now he can take your child while you think he's is babysitting your child or watching your child, taking him or her to get drugs, abortions because he's abusing, raping your daughter, and you don't know. Those are the situations that I'm talking about. Those are the families that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you and me. God willing, nothing happens ever to our children, and we're paying enough attention. It's everybody else, which is a lot of people, especially living in California under the conditions that we live. A lot of people working multiple jobs. A lot of people whose parents are incarcerated, are in drugs, or the kid has to work, they're unsupervised. This is not about undocumented immigrant children. There are already systems in place to address those children. This is a license for child abusers and traffickers to extort and abuse and take your children.
I believe the best way to end this is with the quote from the Bible. Let me read this. verse. I love it. A little while, and the wicked will be no more. Though you look for them, they will not be found. But the meek will inherit the land and enjoy peace and prosperity. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them, but the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming. The wicked draw the sword and bend the bow to bring down the poor and needy, to slay those whose ways are upright. But their swords will pierce their own hearts, and their bows will be broken. Better the little that the righteous have than the wealth of many wicked, for the power of the wicked will be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. The blameless spend their days under the Lord's care, and their inheritance will endure forever. In times of disaster they will not wither, in days of famine they will enjoy plenty, but the wicked will perish. Though the Lord's enemies are like the flowers of the field, they will be consumed, they will go up in smoke. The wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously. Those the Lord blesses will inherit the land, but those he curses will be destroyed. The Lord makes firm the steps of those who delights in him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand.
Amen.
Amen.